Imagine an entire island cut off from the world, not by a natural disaster, but by a government's deliberate decision to silence its people. This is the stark reality for the residents of Annobón, a small island in Equatorial Guinea, who have endured a year-long internet blackout as punishment for daring to voice their concerns. But here's where it gets even more chilling. This isn't just about a lack of Wi-Fi. It's about a systematic crackdown on dissent, leaving residents isolated, fearful and struggling to survive. Last July, the people of Annobón, frustrated by the disruptive dynamite explosions carried out by a Moroccan construction company, Somagek, wrote a letter of complaint to the government in Malabo. Their plea for action was met with a harsh response. Dozens of signatories were imprisoned, and the island's internet connection was severed. This draconian measure has had devastating consequences. Banking services have collapsed. Emergency medical care is virtually non-existent, and residents are burdened with unaffordable phone bills as they desperately try to communicate with the outside world. The Associated Press interviewed several residents who have fled the island in recent months, citing fears for their safety and the unbearable conditions of life without internet access. And this is the part most people miss. The internet shutdown in Annobón is not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of repression in Equatorial Guinea. Under the rule of Africa's longest-serving president, Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, the country has become synonymous with corruption, mass surveillance, and the silencing of critics. Obiang, now 83, has been in power for over half his life, with his son serving as vice president and facing accusations of embezzlement and money laundering in France and the UK. Despite the nation's oil and gas wealth, at least 57% of its nearly 2 million people live in poverty, while the ruling elite enjoys a life of opulence. The Moroccan company Somagek, which activists claim has ties to the president, has denied involvement in the internet shutdown, though it confirmed the outage. The company's CEO, Roger Sihune, defended the use of dynamite as essential for their construction projects, insisting that all necessary environmental assessments were conducted. However, residents and activists argue that the explosions have polluted their farmlands and water supply, exacerbating their already dire situation. But here's the controversial part. While the Trump administration has considered easing corruption sanctions on Equatorial Guinea's vice president, the international community has largely remained silent on the plight of Annobón. This raises a critical question. Are we inadvertently enabling authoritarian regimes by turning a blind eye to such blatant human rights violations? Felicia Antonio of Access Now, an internet rights advocacy group, points out that cutting off internet access is a common tactic used by governments to suppress dissent. The power of the internet to enable people to challenge their leaders threatens authorities, she explains. So, the first thing they do during a protest is to go after the internet. Annobón's struggle is deeply rooted in its history of marginalization. Located about 315 miles from Equatorial Guinea's coast, the island has long sought independence, accusing the central government of neglecting its residents. With a population of around 5,000, Annobón is one of the country's poorest islands, lacking basic social amenities like schools and hospitals. A new airport built by Somagek in 2013 was supposed to connect the island to the mainland, but locals say it has done little to improve their lives. Instead, the internet shutdown has further deteriorated living conditions, crippling essential services like healthcare and banking. Tutu Alicante, an Annobón-born activist and founder of the EG Justice human rights organization, highlights the unprecedented nature of this crackdown. This is the first time the government cut off the internet because a community has a complaint, he notes. The island's isolation makes the situation even more dire. Annobón is very remote and far from the capital and the rest of the continent, Alicante explains. So you're leaving people there without access to the rest of the continent and incommunicado. As the internet shutdown persists, the residents of Annobón continue to suffer in silence. their voices muffled by a government determined to maintain control. But the question remains, how long will the world remain indifferent to their plight? Is it time for the international community to take a stand against such oppressive tactics? Or will Annobón's story become just another footnote in the annals of human rights abuses? We invite you to share your thoughts and join the conversation. Because in the digital age, silence can be just as powerful as action.